Although the author of The Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien, says that the story is not intended to be an allegory for Christianity, it's quite easy to see the Christian elements in The Lord of the Rings. While the mainstream film culture is not only vastly non-Christian, but also highly anti-Christian in many ways, no small number of Christ followers are all but salivating to see a high-quality film series that is not completely or, mostly hostile to their beliefs. The Lord of the Rings, as one of the highest qualities and best thought-out movies/novels of all time, provides the perfect candidate for such an audience. Despite the fact that there are no churches, God is not mentioned, and there is no Bible, there are clear elements of Christianity in The Lord of the Rings. The first element of Christianity in The Lord of the Rings would have to be simply the overall theme of the novel and film. The entire story is set in a universe which values right, wrong, and absolute truths. In a non-Christian world, there is no absolute truth, and right and wrong are subjective to each individual person's feelings and preferences. The Ring of Sauron, or the One Ring, is a symbol of how sin entices and traps all those who put it on and seek to wear it. Gandalf and Galadriel were both tempted by the One Ring, or tempted to sin, and thwarted it just as Christians are given the power to do through Christ inside them. Bilbo and Frodo, both of whom are supposedly good people, willingly put on the ring and find themselves more and more drawn to its power. Bilbo, having had the One Ring for much longer of a period of time, was more along the path of corruption than Frodo. However, Bilbo's defining moment comes in the beginning of The Fellowship of the Ring, the first movie, when he leaves it with Gandalf before leaving for Rivendell, despite the obvious war going on inside him. The epitome of corruption by the ring is the sad character of Gollum, who began as a simple river hobbit by the name of Smeagol, who was immediately seduced by the ring to the point of even killing his best friend Deagle. Even Saruman, formerly the most powerful wizard in Middle-earth, was taken by the ring and became filled with thoughts that true victory would only come when he himself was the ruler of Middle-earth, not knowing that while Sauron was playing him as a puppet. All characters who were taken by the ring, or taken by sin, had a clear war inside them to defeat the ring, or their sinful nature. Of course, this does not directly correlate with the Christian belief that victory through salvation can only be obtained by faith in Christ alone, but it does represent the spiritual battle described in Ephesians 6:12. Another element of Christianity found in The Lord of the Rings is the story of Gandalf and Sauron. While not a direct analogy, there are certainly elements of characters of good and evil that portray Jesus Christ and the devil. One would say that Gandalf is unable to represent Christ due to the biblical evidence that God finds sorcery detestable and punishable by eternity in hell, but this overlooks the fact that Gandalf was not actually a magician, but rather an angelic type being sent by Eru, or the one god of this universe, to oversee Middle-earth. His power is not of sorcery, but simply granted by Eru in order to watch over and protect Middle-earth. Aragorn is yet another major character to be found as a symbol for Christ in this work. Similar to Christ, Aragorn was seen as strange, untrustworthy, and odd despite the fact that Gandalf supported him. When Aragorn, or Strider as he was known in the town, called on Frodo Baggins to follow him, Frodo had every reason to be wary of him. However, like the disciples of Christ, Frodo immediately trusts Aragorn/Strider with his life. Frodo and the rest of the hobbits continue to trust Aragorn along their journey despite the constant peril and danger they face throughout their time with him. Even Boromir, who doubts and even comes incredibly close to falling to the power of the One Ring, is comforted by forgiving words of his king by the time of his death. Aragorn is also the king for whom Gondor has been waiting. While stewards control Gondor, the people anxiously await the return of the king. When Aragorn returns, he is trumpeted by the horns of Rohan and followed by the ghosts of Proth, while his enemies scatter in terror at his return. King Aragorn then brings peace to his city, followed by unleashing the final assault to destroy the enemy once and for all. This is a clear example of the return of Jesus Christ as described in the final book of the Bible, Revelation. The rest of the Fellowship of the Ring also has their place in the symbolism of Christianity. Gimli and Legolas, the dwarf and elf of the story, are two very racist and hateful men who view each other's race as the cause for almost all of their problems. However, after their time spent with Gandalf, and particularly Aragorn, Gimli and Legolas grow close to each other and end up becoming the best of friends. This is an example of how God's love is able to turn the hardest of hearts into love. Meriadoc Brandybuck and Peregrine Took, aka Merry and Pippin, had never faced hardship in their lives. Pippin was seen as clumsy and careless, while Merry had done nothing more dangerous than steal some corn from the old farmer. Pippin went on to become a brave and resourceful knight of Gondor, while Merry became a great hero who battled the Witch King of Angmar himself, striking a mortal blow. This shows that God can take the most insignificant and weakest of men to make them strong when they walk according to his word. Last but certainly not least, the final member of the fellowship that has a place in the allusion to Christianity is, of course, none other than Samwise Gamgee. Sam is like the Apostle Paul in the way that he gave up everything he had quickly and without question in order to fulfill his calling and duty. Through all the trials and tribulations Sam faced, he never gave up on his purpose, just as Christians are to never give up on God, in spite of the fact that we will almost certainly face as many trials and many tribulations just as Christ himself did on earth. A large part of Sam's story is one that many Christians are all too familiar with, watching a beloved friend slip into darkness. Sam could see right through Gollum manipulating Frodo and was heartbroken when Frodo was taken by Gollum's deceit. But like the Christian who watches sadly as his friend battles sin, Sam did not simply stand by. He returned to Frodo's aid when Frodo needed him most, never having wavered in his love for and dedication toward his friend. Lord of the Rings is full of Christian elements from cover to cover of all three stories. The characters, both good and evil, are representations of real biblical figures, or certain sides of them at the very least. Sin, like the One Ring, is dangled in front of us in order to tempt us to turn our backs on the truth of God by offering temporary satisfaction and pleasure in return for long-term